Is Batman responsible for the Joker's crimes? Now, you might think that this is in relation to the fact that Batman is responsible for creating the Joker. Well, it's not. You see, Batman isn't actually responsible. Not really. Sure, he did scare the Joker, which made him trip and fall in the acid, but Batman didn't make the Joker become a criminal, he didn't deliberately throw him in the acid, and he certainly didn't force Joker to become a supervillain once his face had become bleached. So, I don't think Batman created him. And even if he did, so what? Is a mother responsible for a son's crimes just because she created him? I mean, without Joker's parents, then Joker wouldn't exist, would he? So it must be their fault. I mean, obviously it's not. You can't blame a parent for their child's crimes. And by the same logic, you can't blame Batman for Jokers, even if you do believe that Batman played a part in creating the Joker. But with that being said, it is true that if Batman didn't exist, then the Joker wouldn't exist either. It has been well established that the Joker is not only fixated on Batman, but that literally all he cares about is Batman. And if Batman disappears, then so too does the Joker. And this was shown in the animated Batman The Dark Knight Returns films. In this story, Batman retires, and Joker just sits in Arkham Asylum in a catatonic state, until the day that he sees that Batman has returned. He literally does nothing for decades, until Batman is back. Because without Batman, there is no point in him being the Joker. And in the comic Batman Going Sane, Batman is believed to be dead, but is actually just badly injured. But since the Joker thinks he's finally killed him, he basically just becomes sane. And he starts leading a perfectly normal life. He changes his name, gets surgery to look normal, gets a job, and even gets a girlfriend. He literally just becomes a normal, average, law-abiding citizen. That is until Batman returns, and so too does his insanity, and he becomes the Joker once again. So Batman can stop the Joker very easily. All he has to do is hang up his cape and cowl, and that will be the end of the Clown Prince of Crime. Now, personally I think this is a bit like a Greek tragedy, saying that Batman is causing the very thing that he is trying to stop. It's a common theme in a lot of stories because it is actually very true to real life. When you try to fix a problem, you often end up creating more problems. And even if you solve the thing that you set out to solve, then your actions will mean that you now have other problems that you have to deal with. Or another way of saying that is to say, you can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. Or things can often get worse before they get better. That's just how life goes. But what does all this mean? Well, you could argue that Batman is partially responsible, as he knows that if he goes away, then the Joker will go away too. But then what? I mean, Two-Face, Riddler, Penguin, and all the others will still be causing havoc. Ra's al Ghul will still be trying to wipe out half of humanity in order to save the environment, and yes, it will solve the Joker problem, but it also means that all the other supervillains won't ever get stopped. A great example of this is the Batman Arkham Knight game. Joker is dead and gone, but the rest of Batman's rogues gallery are still causing plenty of trouble. Also, you have to remember that there is no guarantee that the Joker will stay gone. This isn't a contract bound by magic. He could still just decide to get fixated on someone else and go back to causing chaos. But for argument's sake, let's say that the Joker will disappear for good so long as Batman is gone for good. So Batman does this, and he retires, and so too does Joker. Well, there is still the rest of the Bat family, and they could take over keeping the other villains in check in town, again just like they do in the Arkham games. And assuming that the Joker doesn't go after them instead, or just keep causing chaos to try and get Batman's attention, that's all well and good. I mean, that is really the most likely thing to happen. Joker will just set off bombs till Batman shows up. So Batman can't just simply retire. At least, most likely he can't. But he could fake his death. Then the Joker would disappear because he'd think Batman was gone. So why doesn't he? I mean, it actually makes a lot of sense. Batman fakes his death, and the Joker problem is solved. And he doesn't even have to take his life. And Bruce Wayne could either stay retired, or just wear a different costume and use a different name, like Owlman or something, and that would be that. I mean, let's be honest, it doesn't really matter if his name is Batman, does it? Now, when I started writing this video, I honestly thought I would come to the conclusion that Batman was not responsible for Joker's crimes, as one person can't be blamed for another person's crimes, not unless he was manipulating them into doing it at least. But the thing is, Batman has taken responsibility on for Gotham's safety, and yet he hasn't stopped the Joker. Sure, he's put him in prison or Arkham Asylum, but he knows Joker will just break out, and he does refuse to kill him, which is fair as he doesn't want to be a murderer. But the real problem with this is, he keeps saving the Joker's life. On multiple occasions, he has gone out of his way to save the life of this violent psychopath. And while it could be argued that he wasn't responsible for the Joker's crimes before this, I actually think he does become responsible after this, at least partially, because Batman knows for a fact that Joker will commit more crimes and kill more people for as long as he lives. So if he saves his life and he knows for a fact that the Joker will keep on killing, then he is partially responsible, isn't he? So why the hell does he save him?
Now why? Why would you do that? Newsflash! I'm the one who's trying to kill you!
Well, the answer is because Batman has an uncontrollable compulsion to save the lives of anyone around him, regardless of the risk to his own well-being. This is all because of the trauma he suffered as a child when he watched his parents die. So, in a way, I would say this actually absolves Batman, at least partially, as he is mentally ill and he literally can't stop himself from trying to save the Joker. Sure, in some of the live-action films, he lets those around him die, but those films aren't exactly accurate and true to the comic character. And in fairness to the live-action films, he does actually stop Joker for good when he locks him up. It's not like the other media where Joker keeps escaping every 5 minutes. So it's not really these continuities we're talking about, at least so far. Who knows what the future Batman feature films will entail. But what it really comes down to is this. Batman refuses to kill the Joker, as it's not his place to decide who lives and dies. Who ends up with broken bones and crippling life injuries, sure, but not who dies. And that is fine. If he doesn't want to kill, then that is his choice, and it is understandable. But the fact that he saves the Joker's life on multiple occasions makes him guilty, let's be honest. I think he is partially responsible from that point onwards for what the Joker does, as he knows what the Joker will do if he's allowed to live. I mean, the guy's been very clear on this subject. And Batman still makes sure that Joker is alive to commit these crimes. So, to my mind, in a way, he is kind of Joker's accomplice. However, because of Batman's mental illness forcing him to save Joker, I think he is kind of innocent on grounds of insanity, or at the very least, he is an accomplice with diminished responsibility. And that's actually my conclusion to this question, which really surprises the hell out of me. I can honestly say when I started thinking about this, I did not think I would find Batman guilty. I seriously didn't think the Batman could be held responsible for someone else's crimes. But the more I thought about it, the more I realised that Batman has deliberately kept the Joker alive, allowing him to continue wreaking havoc. And he is well aware of what he's going to do, more so than anyone else, I would say. Sure, it's not his place to decide who lives or dies, but it's also not his place to be the guardian of Gotham and go around beating up the criminals while wearing a batsuit. But still, he does it. And he seems to be okay with the part of lives or dies where he decides who lives, just not when he decides who dies. So, a little hypocritical. And at the end of the day, he made himself guardian of Gotham. And with that action, he made it his place to decide what happens to the Joker. And if he doesn't want to kill him, then he could just stop being Batman and get rid of him that way. But he doesn't. I mean, he has the means to stop him, but doesn't use it. So I can't help but conclude that he is Joker's accomplice. An unwilling accomplice, certainly, but still an accomplice. The rest of us might not be held guilty because we're not really involved, but he has chosen to be directly involved, and as such, he's taking on responsibility that kinda makes him guilty here. Now, I understand why Batman does what he does, and with most people it is the right course of action, but not with the Joker. It's the typical question of, would you kill Hitler? And I don't mean as a baby, this isn't some philosophical question, I mean literally, would you kill Hitler at the height of the Third Reich, after he has already killed millions? I mean, imagine that you're in the Inglourious Basterds movie, and you could save Hitler's life by warning him about the fire and the bombs. Would you? Well, no, of course you wouldn't. No one with a soul would. And the same is true of saving the Joker. It may not be our place to kill him, but we definitely wouldn't go out of our way to save him. I mean, the real problem here, when you think about it, is that the Joker's crimes have gotten more and more destructive and deadly over the years, while Batman's means of dealing with him hasn't changed to keep a pace of this. I mean, Batman's basically fighting the Joker as if he's like, oh, he's not that bad a guy, he's not that big a villain, is he? When we're like, no, he's the Hitler of supervillains. I mean, eventually it reaches a point where you have to say, for God's sake, just get rid of the murdering nutjob already. But let's not forget that this is just my opinion, and that this is very much a discussion video, and you may very well disagree, which is fair. We're all entitled to our opinions, of course. I'm entitled to think this, you're entitled to disagree. And to be fair, I genuinely didn't think this was how the video was going to go down either, but after writing this and looking at all the evidence, I had no choice but to come to this conclusion. But do bear in mind that Batman has a hero complex and cannot help but save the Joker's life, so he's not completely at fault here. And of course we do have to factor in the fact that bad writing is a part of this, so you have to take it all with a pinch of salt. But if we take what we have as being true, well, it does kind of make the Batman look a little bit guilty. But if you do have a different opinion on this, or a different way of Batman stopping the Joker, then please let us know in the comments. Because if you can see a way in which Batman isn't culpable, then I would seriously love to hear it, as I don't like saying the Batman is in any way Joker's accomplice, but I seriously can't see another way of looking at this. And I'd just like to quickly remind everyone that we have merchandise available on our store, and to say thanks to all of you who have donated to the Needle Mouse Productions page on Patreon. And as always, thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe, share, like, and comment.